Hello, everybody. Welcome to my weekly live Q&A. My name is Danny Segura. I am a reporter for MMAjunkie.com, formerly MMAfighting.com. And yes, welcome, bienvenidos to my weekly live Q&A, or bi-weekly sometimes, depending on what's going on in the MMA world. Right now, do a little bit of both. Not a whole lot going on, but at the same perspective. And then also, with the cancellation of events, as far as MMA action goes, there hasn't been much. Tonight, Cage Warriors was the only event around, and I suspect that's going to be the only event around for a while. So yeah, a bit of a weird episode today. By the way, this is episode number 13 on this Friday. I don't have coffee today, but I have a Negroni. Today was my day off at work, so didn't really need coffee. And also I don't know about you guys, but I've been having a tough time sleeping. Not really because I'm not tired, which that's partly one of the reasons, but also just being stuck at home and not like leaving much is just, I don't know, it kind of clogs up my head, and then it just feels like when I'm going to sleep I might be a little tired, but not really. So I just tend to stay up late. Hopefully this nice little Negroni will keep me a little sleepy later on. Anyways, you've submitted questions via Twitter, so I will answer those first, as I usually do on these live Q&As. And then I will go over to the live chat and then answer those questions there. So again, if you didn't submit questions via Twitter, do not panic. Do not worry. I will get to the live chat at some point in the later part of this video. So you can submit questions there, and yeah, and then that's that. So let's do the Twitter ones first. Did I watch Cage Warriors? No, I did not. I usually don't watch Cage Warriors. That's more of like, I mean, it's become a sort of a bigger show over time, but it's still very much regional. You can follow, we have over at MMAjunkie.com our own Simon Head. He does a fantastic job covering the European scene. And yeah, he'll bring you updates on all that. But I didn't watch it. I know there was one UFC preliminary card that they took from UFC London and allowed it to be on that fight card, if I'm not mistaken. So that was kind of interesting. And I may catch it sometime tomorrow, or maybe just this weekend, because there's not a whole lot to do around here, given the quarantine. I'll tune into that. It's funny. You send me. I wish I could have the capabilities and the technologies to sort of show you my share screen, share screen. But it's funny. It's two dudes fighting, clearly contact to contact, and then right behind it, there's a guy with a mask. So it seems very funny looking picture. But a lot of controversy surrounding that event going on. Obviously, with what's going on in the UK, it seems the outbreak is fairly bad there. Just a lot of controversy in general with promotions trying to keep on hosting events and everything that entails of having an event, in this climate. So yeah, I mean, if you guys want to get into that, I'm more than glad. I know. I mean, I'll get into that if you guys want. If not, then I'm down to discuss anything else. So yeah, no, I did not watch it, but I'll catch it this weekend. The Seaside. Maya Bobner. I believe that's how you pronounce your name, right, Maya? I believe you corrected me once. Hopefully I learned from my mistakes. How are you? Here in the EU, we have quite of a serious situation due to the coronavirus. First of all, I'm doing well. A little bored, but I'm all right. As far as health, borders are closed, and they enforced a ban on all kinds of public gatherings, with only essential trips outside allowed. I just wanted to thank you for still doing these live chats for us. Stay safe. Smiley face. Well, thank you for that comment. And I just have to say thank you for tuning in. Because again, without you guys, this whole thing wouldn't be possible, because I can't talk to myself. So hopefully, you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying making these. So yeah, I appreciate Maya, your question. But I'm doing well. And as far as sort of like the greater scheme here, it seems people are starting to take this whole coronavirus thing seriously, at least from my friends and from the people that I've interacted with, family members, etc. I can't speak for everyone. I feel we've seen videos of people kind of just going about their daily lives like nothing. So, again, to each their own, but seems kind of idiotic at this point to be traveling and to just be out and about as is your regular life. But yeah, I'm doing well, and everyone I know for the most part is doing well. I do have a really somebody's fairly close, pretty close, a family friend that's currently and I tweeted about this when I mentioned sort of criticizing or giving my 2 cents on Dana White calling us, the media, a bunch of wimps for criticizing the UFC for continuing years old, currently in a coma. He's doing well. He's stable and he's recovering, but it's still scary. And at one point, they told him, if we don't induce you into a coma, you're gonna die. And his wife is also quarantined at the hospital, and his 4 kids are at home with the older sister taking care of the others. So again, they're doing all right, within all that context, but it's still very scary, and there's much worse cases out that spoke to someone and that someone got it. I mean, you just never know. That's why it seems a lot of us media members are advising, I guess, the UFC to not host events because of reasons like that, because it involves people traveling, it involves contact to contact, it involves moving people around different locations. A lot of people, not just fighters, but their camps, production team, PR staff, doctors, etc. And at this point in time, that doesn't seem to be the move. Maybe things get a little. I suspect this is going to last a long time, but I do think maybe down the line, when it's a little bit more contained and we know what we're dealing with, and sort of we see the cases drop and stuff like that, maybe we become a little bit more relaxed on sort of the rules and regulations, and we're able to do a little bit more than what we're doing now. So maybe some right now in New York, for example, our mayor pretty much ordered the closing of all businesses, pretty much everything except everything non-essential. So basically everything essential would be pharmacies, hospitals, grocery stores, and I believe that's about it. So you can imagine, I think at some point when things get better, I think we'll ease our way into it. So maybe still, gathering in venues and concerts of hundreds will probably still not be allowed, but maybe, some restaurants will be allowed. I don't know, but I do expect, things at some point to start getting increasingly better. I mean, we're not even into the worst of it all, I think, yet, but I mean, I guess we'll see. A lot of it is speculation. I'm kind of just going by what the experts are saying, and also what I'm seeing in other countries. The model repeats itself. We're no different, right? But yeah, no, as far as myself, I'm doing well. A little bored, not gonna lie. This quarantine, I've been in quarantine since Wednesday since Wednesday. So it's already a week and a couple of days. So watched a lot of movies, worked a lot because got nothing else to do. Plus, I enjoy work anyway. So if you guys want to ask me about some of the stuff that I've done this week, I've talked to, several fighters, 2 UFC Brasilia fighters, Brandon Moreno and Enrique Arzola. Actually, I should follow up in the next coming days to see if they've been if they got any testing done and see if they've been getting any symptoms. Hopefully not. I talked to Jairzinho Rosenstruck and got an update on him as far as what he's doing now, because remember, he was supposed to fight was it this weekend or next weekend at UFC next weekend at UFC Columbus. So yeah, talk to him about what he's gonna do. It seems he's just gonna wait things out in Florida. He's not gonna go back to his home country of Suriname. He's just gonna keep training there and kind of be on the lookout to see if the UFC gives him an update on when he's gonna fight or when that date is gonna be rescheduled. So that's what he told me. But for now, he's just gonna stay put, and he's got a house rented down in South Florida, training at ATT. Switched from the Hard Knocks 365 Henry Hoops gyms to American Top Team, and yeah, he's just gonna wait it out, and hopefully, he says he gets rebooked soon, but we'll see about that. Again, everything's up in the air right now with this outbreak here in the U.S. Thank you, Maya, for submitting that question. Much love from New York. So Maria Camila Montañez, this is actually a personal friend of mine, my former roommate. She's in Colombia right now. She moved back to Colombia. She lived with me here in New York. Asked me, guaro or ron? Obviously, aguardiente all day. I like rum, especially if it's a mixed drink or a nice frozen cocktail. If the time calls, say I'm on an island or a nice beach, I'll have something refreshing. But for the most part, aguardiente does the job for me. I'm Colombian, so that's in my blood. I can drink that no problem, unlike other liquors that I have a hard time drinking just because of the taste or whatever effect. Guara to me is very smooth. So 100% aguardiente. For those who have not tried aguardiente, I encourage it. It is a fun drink. She also asks, dogs or cats and why? I like both. I used to hate cats, and I lived with a cat. With one of my roommates had a cat when I first moved to New York, and that cat was a mean cat for the most part. But then we became friends, and then I kind of started liking cats. Then moved somewhere else, lived with another cat, and then that cat was really nice. Her name was Jackie. She was cool. But even the cat that I've liked the most, they're still cats. They do their own thing. When they get bored of you, they just leave you. And I kind of don't like that. I like dogs because they're kind of needy. So, so I don't know. It's a dog, and you can play with them, and you can hold them, and they don't get weird. Like cats sometimes are like, "Ew, don't touch me." They just leave. So yeah, just dogs are much better. Who specializes in coming up with the blueprint? They would be like the architect, and the coach of the person is the builder to make sure the fighter executes it. Yeah, that's an interesting question. But for the most part, the brightest minds are coaches, right? When it comes to fighting, because they're there. They a lot of them were former fighters themselves. They teach technique, so it requires them to learn all the angles and things needed to execute certain techniques and certain plans. They've usually are older gentlemen, right? You don't see, you see some coaches that are in their 20s and stuff, but for the most part, if you look at the top coaches, right, like Henry Hooft, Duke Rufus, Greg Jackson, Mike Winklejohn, even Matt Brown. Matt Brown is not even that old. I think he's like 40 or something like that, but like he was a former world champion. He's WC, had a long career, probably had 30 fights logged in, something like that. Has been around the game, knows the ins and outs. So yeah, if you look at most of the coaches, they're a little bit older and they have tons of experience. That's something they all share in common. So they're kind of like both your builder and your architect. But I can definitely see a scenario where there's a coach that's not as experienced asking for another second opinion from someone that's been around the game for a long time, and then kind of using a lot of that knowledge to kind of make a game plan and then implement that. But as far as your question, no, a coach is kind of like the architect. Also, they know the fighter, they know what the fighter's capable of doing, what they're not capable of doing. Also, how the training's been going, if they have had any injuries, so you don't want to push them too much. And also, sometimes because of injuries, you gotta cater and kind of build a strategy around that, right? If you messed up your knees just a few days before the fight, you probably can't wrestle a whole lot. So let's do something different, etc. So to answer your question, Terrence, no, I think that's still up to the coaches, but I definitely don't think it's a crazy idea for maybe a less experienced coach to seek advice, from someone that's not in the camp, but has a shit ton of experience and can definitely contribute as the do's and don'ts to a game plan for a specific fight. So yeah. Mike LeBlanc asks, assuming we have 6 months of no UFC and you're looking to return, and you're booking the return card with all fighters healthy and available, let's say 10 fight card with 3 title bouts. So I gave it some thought about this because you submitted that 2 hours ago. So this is something I love about the Twitter questions, is like I get to kind of come up with a little bit more elaborate answers. Now, I didn't go ham on this because I was too busy making this and just doing other stuff. But assuming we don't have MMA for a while, and we got to be realistic, right? I can't go Israel Adesanya, John Jones, Brock Lesnar. I got to be realistic and play with the cards that are currently available, right? And will probably most likely be available in the near future. 3 title fights, say say it's a November card in Madison Square Garden, I would go Khabib Ferguson. You bring that to my state, to New York. Stipe versus DC3. By that time, I hope they should. DC is okay now. He said it. Leading up to UFC 248 in Vegas, we spoke to him at a scrum, at a like USADA sponsored scrum type thing. The wild card there is Stipe. He seems to still have eye issues, but hopefully by then, in 6 months, he's all right. So I would make that fight as well. I wonder if that would headline over Khabib Tony. Probably not, but usually they put the heavier fight on top. And then I would just do the rematch, Joseph Benavidez versus Davidson Figueiredo. And then below that, just fights. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. But those would be 3 realistic title fights that you can put in one card for sure. Yeah, but good question. I should probably give it more thought. But yeah, I guess that's one good thing that may come out of this, just as a byproduct, is that there's so many fighters that are going to be ready right away when the UFC is going to be eligible to return. Granted, there's going to be a long queue, but I feel like we're just going to see a lot of fights. I don't know if you guys caught this, but within the same video that Dana White kind of ripped the media for being critical of him trying to keep events going among this global pandemic, he also mentioned that he corrected Kamaru Usman, who did the live stream, and was like, they're not canceled, they're postponed. All the fighters will still get 3 fights this year, and everyone's going to get paid. So for those that don't know, the way the UFC contract works is, I think they have to be offered 3 fights a year, something like that, or else it's like a breach in contract. So again, if you keep in mind the coronavirus and this is going to keep us out for a while, you got to keep in mind a big chunk of the year is going to be missing. So if you already thought the UFC schedule was packed, or at least according to what Dana White is saying, it's going to get even more packed just because he wants to meet the guidelines or the standard of everybody getting offered 3 fights, and then by just simple mathematics, he's just going to have less time to put this together. So yeah, I mean, we're going to see what happens, but I assume we're going to be getting a shit ton of MMA whenever this is over. All right, Michael Terrell. After both of the recent performances, how far are we from Jones versus Izzy? I actually don't think we're. I thought we were a lot closer after John Jones' performance, but against Dominic Reyes, because he particularly did, even though he won it. A lot of people thought Reyes won, and then he didn't look all that great in that fight, or at least compared to his. Don't get me wrong, that was still a world-class performance, but compared to what he used to do in the cage, it certainly was, I think many would consider, and I think this is not a crazy assessment, but certainly a lesser performance. So I thought, the fight would be a lot closer, but then I saw Romero and Izzy, and that didn't change my mind a whole lot about Izzy, but still, I think if he would have gone in there and stopped Romero, I think we would have been like, oh, damn, like Jones-Izzy could have very well be a real thing in 2020. So I don't know, especially with this whole pandemic thing, with this whole virus, I don't think we'll see that fight in 2020, but I'm pretty confident if both are still champions, I think it's very likely that we see that fight in 2021. Certainly I see them both defend their belts a couple times before they fight each other. They could get a couple fights within a year. So around this time, a year from now, I think we'll be talking about this fight a lot more. Granted that they both win their next fights, which is always up in the air in the UFC because there's no easy fights in the UFC. All right. I think that does it for Twitter questions. Let me double check just to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out. But if that's the case, let me see. Okay, no, there's one more. 8 paths of wokeness. Well, I think in theory, Khabib versus Tony can be done it would be so over the top. All the trainers, teammates, athletes would need to be protected, covered, and tested regularly, as well as the commission, judges, refs, and cameramen. Daily, 3 weeks out up until the fight. LOL, I didn't even finish my question. What? Do we just need to accept that the fight will be canceled? So a lot of people are saying, mostly UFC people, Dana White, are saying, this fight is going to happen no matter what. That fight is what? April 18th, is it? Let me just double check. Yeah, so that fight is scheduled for April 18th. I don't know if you guys have kept up with the news as well, but over in California, I believe California, or at least LA, but I think California, if I'm not mistaken, they're in a complete shutdown. So all essential, or are kind of like New York, all non-essential establishments are closed. And a lot is going on there, obviously, and both Khabib and Ferguson trained there. So I wonder how everything's going to work out. Also, Jared Gordon said something like he was training. This was in Florida, but it could apply to California. He said something along the lines of like he was training at Hard Knocks 365 with Henry Hooft and a few other fighters, and the cops literally went to the gym and kicked them out. They're like, "You can't do this. We can arrest you." I believe that's what he said. If you guys continue training, you guys got to leave now. And then they left and they went to train somewhere else. I think at a park or something. I'm actually going to talk to him at 9, so in about an hour, about that. And obviously he has an upcoming fight as well. And I don't know if you guys remember when he fought. Who did he fight? Was it Charles Oliveira? He fought somebody and he got his orbital broken, and he's recovering from that. So obviously, talking to him about that and everything else. Who did he fight? Yeah, it was Charles Oliveira. I was right. It was in Sao Paulo in November. Yeah, he got knocked out and in the process got his orbital bone broken. So yeah. So anyways, back to your question. I honestly don't see Khabib Tony happening. I think we're gonna be things are gonna get worse in the coming weeks. Obviously, getting closer to April, and then I think April's gonna be a bad month, and then from then on, I hope things get better. But it all depends how seriously people take it. I think this is something people are not realizing. Like, people are going out and partying and then being like, I'm going to live my life and, whatever the government tells me, then I'll do it. If they tell me to stay in, then stay in. But as of now, I'm going to, I'm going to still party and live my life like, normal or whatever. But I don't think they realize the more people take this seriously, the easier and the faster we're going to get out of it. The worse, the more ignorant you're about the topic and you're going about your day like just like a regular day, the longer this is going to take, because the more infections we're going to get and the more cases we're going to get. So anyways, I don't think it's happening. It's definitely not happening here in New York. Dana has talked about it taking it to an Indian reservation where, technically it's like its own territory, right? It's like sovereign territory. I don't really know all the laws behind Indian reservations, but certainly when MMA wasn't legal in most states, that's where it would go down because, they would get to self-regulate. So that could be an option, but dude, and I'm sure I'll have to cover it for my job. Of course, it's a huge fight, but man, that's just to be honest, to be keeping it real with you, that looks shady. That's shady. When athletic commissions are closing down and are saying we're not going to have fights, and you still go on and have fights elsewhere, at that point you're basically commission shopping. Oh, I can't have a fight here in New York. Okay, I'll go to Vegas. Oh, Nevada State Athletic Commission doesn't let me have fights here. Okay, and let me go with this, and then you just keep hopping around until someone accepts you. So I don't think that fight happens on April 18th, but again, like Dana said on that Kamaru Usman live stream, I believe that's what he said. He's like, people doubt me and I can pull things off or something like that. And that's certainly true. He does that. So we'll see. That fight definitely will happen this year. Both guys are healthy, knock on wood. I think it will happen, just not on April 18th. So we'll see. And again, like you said, one of the bigger issues is like if they continue to have it, and this is still addressing your question, 8 paths of wokeness. Like if they still continue to have fights, Dana talks about like, oh, we care about the safety of the fighters and we get all the medicals. And I'm sure you do, because you got to get medicals to fight. You got to be medically cleared to compete. But no one's doing coronavirus testing. And that's what we're wondering right now. So basically, he's just saying stuff that we already know. Yeah, you guys do medicals and testing before fights and take precautions for athletes, and you guys tend to be very good at it. That's true. But we're no longer in a regular climate. The biggest worry here is coronavirus. So are you doing anything to test for coronavirus? I know for a fact that UFC Brasilia fighters did not get tested pre or post, because I spoke to several of them. So I think if they would guarantee something like coronavirus testing, that would be a little bit more, or certainly put at ease the minds of many, especially if they fly out fighters earlier than usual, so they get them in. You got coronavirus? No. All right, cool. Train here. Does your whole team have coronavirus? No. All right, cool. We'll provide you the food. We'll provide you all this, and we'll put on a fight. And then that's a little different, but there's still, even with that, there's still health hazards involved, because they have to go home at some point and they can catch it then, and then they can spread it. So, yeah, it just logistically, it just seems like a tough thing to pull off. So we'll see if it happens or not. My guess is not, but I've been in this business not that long, but long enough, about like 4 or 5 years professionally, but long enough to know that, they know I can pull off some crazy shit. So maybe it does happen. Maybe. All right, I believe that does it for Twitter. About 30 minutes in, what I expected. So now I'm going to take things over to the live chat. Not many people tuning in this week. Why? I don't know. But yeah. Again, this will live on YouTube, so you guys can catch the replay whenever you feel like it. So yeah. Anyways, going here back to the chat. Did you see the MMA cartoons making fun of Dana desperately trying to keep the Khabib Ferguson fight? No, I did not. But yeah, I mean, that's a big topic of conversation right now. I'm in no business to make fun of Dana White. That's not what I'm here for. And I think there goes a ambulance. So, by the way, I live like a few blocks away from a hospital, and like there's just ambulances going up and down all the time. Corona, I don't know, but there are many. There's usually a good amount anyways, just because it's a hospital, so it's always. And here in Brooklyn, there's a lot of people, so it's always active. But certainly, I think it's been a little bit more than usual. Anyways, yeah, I'm in no business to make fun of Dana White, or I'm not criticizing him for fun or anything like that, and certainly not making fun of him. My whole thing with the tweet that I put out, and a lot of people retweeted it and supported it. A lot of people kind of just shit on me and basically said what he said, that I'm a wuss because I am calling for people to stay home and follow the government guidelines and expert guidelines, so we can avoid as many deaths as possible, because deaths will happen. That's just a fact. A lot of people are gonna die from this here in the U.S. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, all I'm doing is pointing out facts, and I will do that to anybody that in any situation. I mean, my job with the platform that I have, which is not very big, but regardless, my job as a reporter is to report the news, and also, I don't think many people know, but like just media in general and news organizations. And one of the reasons why this country protects the news is because the news and the media challenges powers and holds them accountable for things, so they do. Dana White says, if I were interviewing Dana White, which probably not going to happen, but if I were, and he says, yeah, we do all this testing, we all these physicals, we care about the athletes, I'd follow up with a question. Okay, well, are you testing for coronavirus? Well, we do all these medicals. Well, apart from the medicals, are you testing for coronavirus? That is important to know here in this situation. So anyways, kind of went on a little rant there, but no, I did not see them. And yeah, I like Cartier. Danny, how come homeless people around the cities aren't dropping dead of corona? Asking for a friend. I don't know the stats on that. Maybe they are. I just don't know. But I don't know. Also, I don't know how that's going to be handled. I think, maybe they're going to be put in shelters almost as if it was like a national, like, like if there was a hurricane or something like that. I don't know how New York's going to deal with it, but I'm sure the stat is out there. I mean, again, this is just starting, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, in a way, I mean, I don't really know like how the homeless lifestyle is, but I would assume there is some social distancing from the public, right? Um, but I mean, they're also homeless, so they're out exposed. So I don't know. I don't know to answer your question. Amy Wheat, do you have a quarantine playlist? I don't. I just usually put my iTunes stuff on shuffle. Also, every Friday, I think Spotify does the same thing, probably on a different day. But um, yeah, they put like new music Friday, and basically what it is just like they take what I've been recently listening to, and they give me recommendations on similar bands and artists, and then I'll a lot of them sometimes are bad, but sometimes I find music and artists that I really like, and then I add them. So it's definitely a good feature. But anyways, as far as like some music I can recommend, I don't know. I've been chilling to like chill music recently, just because like that's kind of like the vibe right now. I'm just at home trying to be relaxed, especially at night. Like I've been home all day. Like I have my energy is through the roof. Certainly, again, like I said, I have a hard time sleeping, not being able to box, not being able to play soccer, not being able to go out and do things. So, um, Brenton Wood is really good if you're into like blues and yeah, that kind of music. I've been listening to a lot of Brenton Wood lately. What else? I'm trying to think. King Cruel. For those international people from the UK, they probably know who King Cruel is. Here in the US, I mean, King Cruel is like pretty famous, but still, I think he's still labeled as like indie or something. I don't know. But he recently came out with an album like a couple of weeks ago, I believe, and that was pretty good. He was actually had a tour scheduled here in the US. There were two shows here in Brooklyn. I wanted to go, but the tickets, it was sold out. But his music's pretty cool, pretty chill as well. Not everybody is into that type of music though. So I don't know if you may like it, but certainly I recommend King Cruel. And also if you're into like reggaeton and kind of trap and more of a hip hop vibe, Bad Bunny dropped an album a few weeks ago again. And that's a really long album as well. So shout out to El Conejo Malo for putting that out, because it's quite lengthy. So it's a good amount of content. Also, he put out something. I don't know if you guys have Spotify or not. I mean, I already have Apple Music, so this doesn't really affect me. But have, if you don't have a music service such as Apple Music or Spotify or something like that, and you just do YouTube or whatever, actually Bad Bunny, I think he worked with Spotify to provide like a free month at Spotify, so you can listen to whatever you want. Let me pull up the link and throw it in the chat in case anybody's interested in signing up. Let's see. I believe his name is San Benito. Yeah, so you can sign up and have Spotify for free, and then you can cancel at any given time. So here's the link. Spotify for an entire month. Times are hard, I get it. All right, so I can't share links in the chat. All right, just look up San Benito, SAN BENTO, yeah. And then you can find the link there. But anyways. But yeah, hopefully those are good music recommendations. King Cruel. That's a little bit of everything too. King Cruel, Bad Bunny's new album. What was the other thing I recommended? And Brenton Wood. Daniel Yerke. Shouts out to Daniel. Hey, I'm getting paid for 2 weeks while my store is closed, which is cool. But if they shut down last longer than that, it's gonna suck. Okay, yeah, it's definitely gonna suck. Definitely, a lot of people are being affected. I'm sorry to hear that, Daniel. Well, I'm happy that you're getting paid for 2 weeks. while you're not working, and hopefully, if you're here in the U.S., hopefully, I suspect it's going to go longer than that, but hopefully the store doesn't shut down, and whenever we're able to return to normalcy, you have a job, and also, hopefully the government kind of has a good response for this, whether it's, I don't know, offering money to people, or I don't know. There's certain measures the government can take to make this situation a whole lot better, especially for the people that do require to go somewhere to work. Luckily for me and many others that work in media and other industries, we're able to work from home. So for me, actually, work has been pretty much the same. I mean, I usually go to the office only when I have to do an interview or go in for a meeting, so that can vary as far as the frequency, but usually it's not that frequent. So for me, I'm very much used to working from home, so that hasn't been an issue, and I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky to be in that position. And your argument is the same argument that many fighters are saying, like, we need money. And I spoke to Brandon Moreno, who fought at UFC Brasilia, and the whole angle I kind of took around that was like, not that I wanted to give some slack to the UFC, but kind of do show a different side of, like, the fights went on, and this shouldn't be happening, but at the same time, for others, like, this is very important. Like for Moreno, he was like, yeah, after the fights, it didn't really hit me, but afterwards I was thinking, like, wow, I really ran with luck, because this event could have been canceled, and he was already in Brazil. It was just days before the fight that Brazil decided to ban all large gatherings and all that. So yeah, I get it. Like, I get it for fighters, and I get, when fighters push back on the media, like, we need to fight. But, like, think about this: if maybe they would get paid more money, then they wouldn't be as needy to fight, right? That'd be a good argument. But so yeah, that brings up issues about fighter pay, and I want fighters to get paid, but when it comes down to money or someone's health and someone's life, I think life and health should be more valuable than money. And yeah, times will get thin, but you're not. I get it. It's a difficult situation, but again, everyone's gonna suffer. I mean, it's a global pandemic. You can't think that you can get it all. Even myself, like, everyone's gonna be affected. Obviously, some people a little less than others. Rich people, right, etc. Even they're being affected, not as much, but still. But everyone's gonna get affected. There's gonna be problems. I mean, people that work in the service industry, like I mentioned on the last chat, I have friends that work at bars and restaurants, and those are closed. And a lot of them are worrying about how they're going to pay rent next month. Hopefully, the government comes through and they allow people, to suspend rent, basically, or at least I know they're putting on laws like you can't get evicted or something like that. Imagine getting evicted around this time; like, that would be horrible. Like, where would you go? You just become homeless? Like, that'd be terrible. So yeah, we're all gonna suffer. We're all gonna suffer from it. It just sucks. That's what a global pandemic brings: suffering and death. All we can do is try to make it kind of lower that and make all those factors the least possible. How? By isolation, right? Social distancing, and yeah, and also the government. The government needs to step up and help those in need. So. Yeah, sucks to hear about your situation, Daniel. Hopefully, it won't come to that. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Mr. Rush MMA, Henry Hooft and TriStar is way too overrated? Question mark. So it wasn't a statement. No, I don't think so. I mean, TriStar has produced literally the greatest fighter of all time, George St. Pierre, and they constantly continue to produce world-class athletes. I mean, some of the bigger names today come from TriStar. Yes, they didn't have a good night at UFC Brasilia because Kevin Lee didn't do quite well, and Johnny Walker didn't do quite well. But those guys are new additions, first of all, to the gym, fairly new additions. And just because you're a good gym, that doesn't mean you're immune to losses. Charles Oliveira is a fantastic fighter. So Nikita Krivlov, believe it or not, he's a fantastic fighter. Although he might not have a big name, but he's a great fighter. And yeah, but I mean, you just go down the line. There's so many fighters that have come out of TriStar that are still there, that are very, very good fighters. So no, by no means is TriStar overrated. As far as Henry Hooft as well, not an overrated guy as well. I mean, he's Kamaru Usman, a current UFC champion, trains under Henry Hooft, a guy who's primarily known as a wrestler. In his last fight, put on a striking clinic against Colby Covington and stopped him late in the round, so late in the fight. So by no means is Hufte an overrated fighter as well. I mean, got Anthony Johnson to fight twice for the title. That's no easy thing, and be a top contender for all these years at light heavyweight. Trying to think of other fighters. I mean, there's so many. I'm gonna talk to Jared Gordon as well. Yeah, he's coming off a loss, but that's a good fighter as well. There are plenty of good fighters as well. Rashad Evans. You just go down the line. There's a lot of good fighters that have come out of both camps and both trainers. Let's see. Brendan Daly. What's your thoughts on Atletico's great performance versus Liverpool the other week? What a special manager, yo. Yeah, that was magical. That kind of reminded me of some of the previous runs we've had. Not the last one, but the other years we've had the runs that we've had in Champions League. Yeah, just an amazing display of tactical football there by Simeone. Clearly, Liverpool, the better team. They outpowered us as far as talent goes, and Atletico still managed to win both legs and get the job done. And all that was done, through careful tactics and cholismo, which a lot of people hate on. Claim is too defensive, claim is anti-football, but it's not. It's not. It's just a very effective way to beat teams that are better. That's frankly it. But yeah, I was really proud of the team because in La Liga we've been doing kind of shit, to be honest. It just hasn't been good. So we needed a big win, and there's no bigger win than continuing on Champions League and beating the champions with Liverpool. So yeah, that was special. That will forever be in the history of Atletico. That was very good. Also, shouts out to Marcos Llorente. Llorente just had an amazing game. Mr. Rush, Mr. Mush MMA, you missed all my questions, all my Twitter questions. Did I? I checked everything, unless you literally just submitted them as I'm doing this live. So that'd be problematic because, I usually just read the questions that came in before. But no, I didn't see them. Unless you have also a different username. Certainly didn't catch any of them, but read everything that was there. Anyways, I'll answer the ones that you put on the chat. Let's see. Because of the hype of Khabib versus Tony, when it actually happens, and it might be a little let down. Sometimes when you hype up something too much, it tends to let down a little. Very true. I mean, we hyped up Romero versus, or should I say Adesanya versus Romero. We hyped that fight so much. I mean, it had all the makings to be a fantastic fight. And it didn't. It ended up being one of the most boring title fights in middleweight history. So certainly not the most boring. David Maia versus Anderson Silva was more boring than that. But yeah, it just wasn't a good fight. What can I say? And we did hype it up too much. So there's something to say about that. But it still was a little different because it wasn't like we saw a fight and we just expected a little bit more. We just didn't see a fight. So that's kind of a different situation. But I don't think Tony versus Khabib will disappoint. Because the thing about this fight, or at least just speaking personally for me, is both of them are on 12-fight win streaks. For me, Tony is the uncrowned champion of the lightweight division. He was an interim champion, never got beat, has beaten all the top guys, has beaten many of the guys Khabib has beaten, except for Conor. So for me, Tony Ferguson is championship material. He could very well be champion. But obviously, Khabib is the real champion there. So that's kind of my question, to see who's the real deal at 155. Clearly, both are above the competition. 12-fight win streaks don't lie. So, I mean, Khabib's even more because he's undefeated, obviously, but only 12-0 in the UFC. But, yeah, for me, we're going to find out who's the best lightweight in the world. Who really is the best lightweight in the world? Usually that's the question for every title fight, but we know in certain fights, and I don't want to pinpoint certain names, but we know the champion's better, right? And then maybe we don't, and then there's an upset. But for me, like legit, I question who is the better lightweight here. My gut says Khabib, just because like he's actually the real champion, and that certainly holds something. But you can't deny what Tony Ferguson has done, and you can't deny what he's capable of doing as well. So even if it's a one-sided beatdown and it's something we didn't expect and it's a quick finish, I think it'll still live up. It'll still be like, okay, now we know. Now we know Khabib he's been the man, but no questions, he's the man now. Or Tony Ferguson was the real deal. The real deal. He just had some bad luck and never got his hands on the opportunity to fight for a real belt. But the man the whole time was the champ, the best 55. So that's kind of where I stand for that fight. So either outcome, whether it's a quick finish or whatever happens, that's what I'm in it for. Granted, I do acknowledge that given both of their styles, I feel like there's going to be a good amount of action and it'll be quite exciting. But if it's not, that's exactly not what I'm in for. And I'm in it to see who's the best. I do feel like we won't be disappointed with this fight. And I don't think we're hyping it way too much. I think the hype is real. It's warranted. It is what it is, So, yeah. All right, coming close to the hour here, 10 more minutes. I believe there's a few more questions. I'll answer those and dip out. Daniel, I think there's a lack of testing for the virus and in America in general. Is it a lack of capability or not wanting to spend the money? 100% a lack of capability. The U.S. wishes they could be doing way more tests. Like, I think Rhonda Marcos posted something interesting on Twitter where, like, she fought in Brazil, right? And got back to the States and, like, she was kind of concerned. Like, do I have corona? Do I not? I should probably get tested. I could pass it on to somebody else, so I should probably get tested. Try to get tested and couldn't. It's just hard to get tested for it. It just is. There's no capability of it. So that's the big concern with the UFC. It's like if there was some capability of testing, I think that would kind of not solve all the problems because there's still issues with having events, obviously with the travel and everything I've mentioned before and just the trading in general. But at least we'd know and we could pull someone from a fight. You tested positive, okay, you can't fight. Whereas now it's like, okay, you don't have any symptoms. Well, symptoms, it's shown by experts that symptoms can take up to 14 days to show up. So literally, you could be potentially putting on a fighter without coronavirus against a fighter with coronavirus and getting the other one with coronavirus. And then he goes back to his family. Maybe, I don't know, he still has contact with his grandparents or older or just parents in general, and they get sick and something bad could happen. Like that's the big what if here. So yeah, the lack of testing in the U.S. is due to the lack of capability, not the want. I'm sure if there was the capability, everybody would get tested. Like I mentioned, like the family friend that's currently in a coma because of coronavirus. He went first to the Cleveland Clinic in Florida, and they told him, no, you're good. You have a little bit of an infection in your lungs or something. Take this medicine, you'll be fine. And the whole time leading up to that, he was feeling very fatigued, would take a lot of naps during the day, and was just not feeling well. So he decided to go to the Cleveland. In Cleveland, they told him he was all right. Probably didn't test him for coronavirus. Gave him some medicine for his lungs or whatever, maybe some antibiotics. I don't know the exact details. Felt better for about a day, then got much worse. And then that's when he went to Miami Children's Hospital, and they tested him, and they're like, yeah, you got coronavirus. And then it kept getting worse to the point that he couldn't breathe. And they're like, yeah, we got to put you in an induced coma if you want to live. And they did. And he's in a coma right now. So yeah, that's the big concern. All right. Favorite Spanish movie? Ooh. Favorite Spanish movie? Well, season 2 of Narcos Mexico came out. I really liked Narcos Mexico. That was pretty good. I'm still like 2 episodes in, so check that out. Narcos is a great show. As far as a movie, yeah, I'll plug in a Colombian director. So there's this movie. I'm trying to pull up the name in English. There's this movie called Pájaros de Verano, which technically translates to Birds of Summer, but in English it's called The Birds of Passage. and it's a really good movie. It's by Ciro Guerra, and somebody else directed it, co-directed it, and Cristina Gallego. Ciro Guerra is a Colombian film director, and he's got a nice little resume, because he does a lot of independent films, and he actually won, I think, was it like the okay, so he was nominated in 2015. He was nominated for the Academy Awards for Best Foreign Film Language. I don't know if he won that, but nonetheless, it was still a great movie, and he won a bunch of awards for Embrace the Serpent. It's a movie in black and white. It's kind of dark, but it's good. It takes place in the Amazon, and it's about an explorer. And I won't say much else because I'll fuck up the movie. But Embrace of the Serpent, you can get that on Amazon. 2015 film, and it's all in black and white, very good. And it's by a Colombian. It was filmed in Colombia, in like the Colombian rainforest. Embrace of the Serpent, and then later on, I believe last year in 2018, he took out Birds of Passage, which is Pájaros de Verano, and that movie is really good. Yeah, it was in 2018, and there's a lot of historical things about it, about like drug dealing, especially in that specific part of Colombia. Believe it or not, I actually lived there. Where that movie takes place is in the desert in La Guajira, and I actually lived there for a little bit because my dad is a mechanical engineer, and he worked for Bridgestone, which makes tires. And there's a big carbon mine in La Guajira, and they had these giant trucks that would have like this like 1.5-story tires. Like it's crazy. So anyways, he worked there, and there's a lot of indigenous tribes there, and they've lived there for a very long time, and they have very certain principles, and they live by certain codes. And again, over there at that time where the movie takes place, there was really no government, so it was really just tribes like maintaining peace and all that. And then once the drug trade picked up in Colombia, some of these indigenous people became drug dealers, and that led to a lot of problems. And again, the movie is fiction, but it's definitely based on a lot of historical facts about what was happening at the time in Colombia. So anyways, it's a long movie. It's like 3 hours long, but it's really good. So Ciro Guerra, 2 movies to watch out. Birds of Passage, and what was the other one that I said? I don't know the what's it called in English. Embrace the Serpent. Yeah, Embrace of the Serpent. Yeah. In Spanish, it's actually called El Abrazo y la Serpiente. But yeah, 2 very good movies. Weird movies. Independent movies. So that's kind of the vibe. But certainly recommend. Did you see the Australian rules? Football is still going on in Australia. It probably shouldn't, but I'm happy it's on. No, I didn't, Jackson. But it's crazy. It's crazy. Sports. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But certainly a health hazard to continue these kind of activities. In fact, didn't Tom Hanks get coronavirus in Australia? I don't know how bad things are in Australia, but I have some friends in New Zealand, and I know they're self-quarantining. So, they're neighbors. So I assume things are probably just as bad. And, they're closer to China where everything began. So I don't know. All right. All right. Yeah. So I believe, yeah, there's no more questions on the chat. I am 55 minutes deep into this live Q&A. Not the most busy live Q&A because of the lack of MMA. So yeah, I don't know if I'll have one next week unless there's some breaking news or something to react to. Maybe I will. Given that there's something to talk about, I think, moving forward, if you do want me to continue this, maybe I'll have it. I'll still continue it, but in a different type of version. Maybe I can do a little something more chill, like an Instagram live stream, and just do a couple minutes of that. But as far as like the whole hour of a live Q&A on this channel, I don't know if that'll go on. But as far as next week, we'll see. We'll see once we cross that bridge. But anyways, if you guys do want me to continue these, tweet at me, let me know. And again, this is only possible because of you guys. So if you guys are down, I'm down. That's basically what it comes down to. So yeah, that's all I got for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, hit the like button, subscribe, stay safe, wash your hands, practice social distancing as much as you can, and yeah, and just inform yourself, read what's out there, listen to the news. It's funny. A lot of people are attacking me on Twitter, calling me a wimp and all this for kind of giving my stance on the whole coronavirus thing and the UFC continuing to, or trying to continue to put on events. And it seems it's like, I don't even know where these people are getting these news, because they're throwing information out there that's just wrong. That's just not facts. And it's funny because I've seen all kinds of news, right? I've watched CNN, I've watched Fox, and literally they are saying the same thing. This is a highly contagious virus. It's messing up people, even if it doesn't kill them. It's messing up people bad. Spreads very easily and very quick. You should stay home. You should not travel, and you should be ready to self-isolate and just be home so you don't expose others to the virus and yourself. So I don't know where these people are getting this information. It's ridiculous. Probably like Tumblr or Reddit or some dude in a blog or something, because it's just not possible for this information to even be out there. I mean, it just seems all the media outlets or the real media outlets are saying the same thing. So anyways, with that being said, just stay safe out there. Let me know if you want to do this again next week. And yeah, you guys have a good night and enjoy your Friday. Salud.